Emma Wolf is here as well. Andy from Notts says part of the water problem is that when we were in the EU, we were banned from constructing any more reservoirs. I think it was on the grounds of environmental concerns. Yes, it was. And of course, our politicians were too wet, no pun intended, to tell them to do one. Well, this is exactly the problem. That for years we were told, and I said to this to you earlier, that building reservoirs is somehow environmentally unfriendly. But nobody asked the question. I mean, if I'd been in government, I'd have gone, well, what's environmentally unfriendly about it?
Collecting water from the sky.
Collecting water which falls free from the sky so that we can have it when it gets a bit dry.
Yes.
Seems like a sensible thing to do.
Where else is it going to come from?
Here's one from Barry in North Yorkshire. It's not only water that's affected by the huge numbers invading our shores. Just imagine the extra sewage they create. When was the last time we had a new treatment plant? I'm sure it will only get worse. Not something I want to think about, but you're right. Same problem, you know, oversubscription, you know, overuse, overpowering, overbearing. Everything breaks. And
that really is very basic. If there are more people, there is going to be more sewage, and that is absolutely grim to think about.
Now, we're going to speak about the cops who have now come out and said that they can't cope with this early prison release scheme. That's another Starmer genius idea. Let's get a voice note from Sean.
Morning, Mike. Sean from Grimsby here. Just a couple of months ago, Keir Starmer told us that he was going to make the streets safer for young girls and women. And I believe him, because nothing says I'm going to make the streets safer more than releasing loads of perverts, sex offenders, rapists, women abusers, thieves, and whilst at the same time importing loads of foreign men from strange cultures. Bit funny, isn't it, Mike? Great show, mate.
It is a bit funny, yeah. I mean, no question at all that it turns out that the MI5, the Metropolitan Police and the National Crime Agency have all told Keir Starmer it's a bad idea to release these people because it might be detrimental to society. I mean, do you have to go to university to learn this stuff?
Yeah. And this is
look, some really horrible people over there. Let's get them all out into the open.
This isn't just the average cop going, you know, we're underfunded, under-resourced. This is Mark Rowley, head of the Met, saying, and he wrote yesterday, didn't he, in the Times, saying, we can't cope. All our major police forces are completely overburdened. The problem is, as well, they're expected to also be suddenly online crime cyber experts, spending all their time finding hurty words on social media and keeping the streets safe. When we have a problem with immigration in this country, and we have soaring levels of knife crime. And we have the mayor saying silly things about cannabis as we saw yesterday.
Unbelievable.
Well, frankly, if you live in London, it's legal anyway. It's completely legal.
I think that's the case for most parts of the country, to be honest.
I
don't think
wherever you go.
I don't think anyone's going to call me up today and say, oh, we saw the police arresting a guy for smoking a joint yesterday. That's never going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And, in terms of Starmer and his safer streets thing, why on earth, how on earth do his policies actually follow through what he's saying? Because when you release, as your caller there said, when you release these people back onto the streets, I was going to say these guys, and they are guys, when you release these guys back onto the streets, it's absolutely terrifying.
Well, we know what happened last time.
For their former victims, but also for women in general, women and girls in general.
A sex offender who was released managed to commit a sex offence within moments of his release, and somebody else was murdered by a murderer, and many of the people who were released had to be recalled. The probation service can't cope either. They've said that they haven't got enough electronic tags to put these people on anyway, and even if they did have, they haven't got enough people to monitor them.
To follow them up.
And so
you don't just put a tag on someone.
It doesn't stop people committing crime just because they've got an electronic tag on.
And in many places of the country, these tags are a kind of badge of honour. You know, they're quite funny, and no one is following you up anyway. They're not tracking what you're doing, where you're going, what you're up to.
Exactly right.
And then these people are back in prison anyway, again.
Yeah, quite right. One here from Keith who says, reference litter. Our town used to have a chap who, with his barrow, kept the streets immaculate, totally devoted to his job. He was known and respected by everyone. We now have a shiny new pickup truck with 3 guys in high-vis who rarely pick up any litter. Now our once lovely town is strewn with litter blowing everywhere. And again, you know, everywhere you go in Dubai, there's somebody, you know, mopping the floor, there's somebody sweeping up, there's somebody picking up everything, and there isn't any litter on the streets anyway, because people don't drop it.
And the thing is, Mike, that's a job. Someone is cleaning the streets. I respect those people. I think it's brilliant that they are cleaning the streets and keeping it nice. But you have people who just don't care about where they live. I mean, your caller there said about our once lovely town. People don't feel like that about where they live if they're just arrived off a dinghy or off a plane.
They
don't care.
It is
and
astonishing,
also,
isn't it?
as you say, in Dubai, but in many places in Europe as well. My brother lives in Germany. You do not drop litter in the street. You just don't do it.
Right.
You care about where you live.
Because there is a sense.
There is a sense of civic pride and duty. And if you drop litter in the street, like if you cross on a red light, which I find quite annoying, but in Germany they go like that, if you cross on a red, if you drop litter in the street, someone will come up to you and say, why have you dropped that litter? Right. What are you doing? Why are you throwing it out of your car window?
How many times do you see people chucking litter out of a car?
Out of a car window,
you know,
in
when
this
you're
country.
Cycling behind them.
Yeah.
Front page of The Guardian, which I don't normally look at particularly. John McDonnell, who is, of course, the great ally of...
First time I've ever agreed with John McDonnell.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy Corbyn... Well, the thing about John McDonnell is I spoke to him quite a lot during the 2019... Labour campaign, actually, when Corbyn was running to be Prime Minister. Yeah. And, you know, whether you agree with him or not, and I don't agree with him on pretty much everything. He's a rare Labour man who's got brains. He's got brains and he knows what he's talking about. He's basically calling for a grassroots leadership challenge to the Labour government and to Keir Starmer. He says this: we need to stand up and assert ourselves to take back control of our party. We may not just lose a government if we don't. We could lose an entire party. So he's warning that Labour could go the way of the Conservatives. The Conservatives now are more or less a dead zone. They don't really seem to have much relevance. Nobody wants to vote for them. They're coming third and sometimes fourth now in polls. Dominic Cummings
has been saying they're over. Yeah. They're literally over. But John McDonnell talks about a part there, the Starmer's government of callousness and political incompetence.
Yes.
And I think that beautifully, good on John McDonnell, that sums it up. It's the vindictiveness, the callousness and utter political incompetence, economic incompetence.
Yeah, they are so incompetent. It's hard to believe.
Really hard to believe.
Now, we've got some pictures which have come in from Nigel Howard, who's one of our exclusive photographers here at Talk. He sent some pictures in. This is something that's happened overnight because it's happened in Keir Starmer's own constituency, right? And believe it or not, you know, it just shows that not everybody who wants to demonstrate about Gaza. This is a demonstration against the PIP and the disability cuts which are coming, and that's St Pancras Station, which is obviously right smack in the middle of Keir Starmer's constituency, and the pictures say, you know, basically, it starts off with being sick or disabled isn't a choice, but you could choose not to punish 7,765 of us in Holborn and St Pancras. You are heartless. It's heartless cuts the legacy that you want. Keir Starmer stopped the cruel cuts. This is all ahead of the disability vote, which an awful lot of Labour backbenchers are very unhappy with, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it shows you the depth of feeling. I mean, basically, Keir Starmer has managed to unite the country against him.
Yeah,
it's
really
the one thing that he's managed to do.
Even in
everybody hates
leafy
him.
Central London, this is Camden, basically, where I grew up. This is Holborn and St Pancras, and they are up in arms about that, and that is people in his local constituency.
Yeah.
And you know what? The Prime Minister just seems to never respond, just to ignore this kind of the people's expressing their feelings about this stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely
ridiculous. One here from Damon, who says, morning Mike, Damon from Wigan, currently in Maspalomas. Very nice. I travel with Jet2 from Liverpool Airport and the service and security checks have been hassle-free. I wouldn't use Manchester Airport because it's just chaos with the checks, etc. But watching your clip of the idiot drunk and shouting at staff, it's simple. If you have too much to drink and you hold the plane up, then the airport should bill you for time wasting because that would soon sober the Muppets up quick. Great show as always. Yeah, I mean, it seems incredible to me that people would get that messed up before they get on a flight.
It is incredible.
Why would you?
But actually, when you go to UK airports, the first thing people do, 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, whatever, first thing they do is sit down at a bar and start slamming back pints.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of these kind of people that wants to ban people from drinking before their flight, before they go on holiday.
Oh, no, but again,
nothing wrong getting to the airport, having a glass of champagne if you're going on holiday.
Yeah.
But it is problematic when you have absolute idiots like that standing there. You just want to get on your flight and just go.
Yes.
And you've got those idiots.
This is the problem, isn't it? You know, we shouldn't have to have a country that you have to ban people from doing things from. We used to have a country which was actually filled with people who were relatively reasonable. Yeah. And, you know, it was a very unusual situation to see somebody that drunk trying to do anything. Whereas now, it's not unusual.
Drunk and violent and aggressive.
And
exactly.
shouty.
In the old days, I think people would have gladly had a glass of something before they got on their flight as a kind of celebration.
Exactly.
But then they wouldn't kick off at the air flight, literally getting on the flight like that. I know.
It is bizarre. Good morning, Mike. Here's a cunning plan, says Louise from Ipswich. Maybe send somebody to bang on the airport manager's door if he is needed and doesn't answer his phone. Well, that's another thing. I mean, you know, in the days of say, for example, if I was needed in here and I wasn't answering my phone, somebody would come and you know, ring the bell.
Well, that's
what
I mean.
Are you?
That's what I was trying to say. If he is really not contactable, doesn't he have a PA who can get to his house and go, wake up, or ring his wife and say, wake him up? He's got to, I mean, in the old days, in the kind of James Bond days, someone would knock on your door. to the chief of, you know, MI5 or whoever it was.
Unless he was on the missing list because he wasn't actually at home at all.
Where was he?
I don't know.
No, the plot thickens.
Entirely wrong for me to suggest that, obviously, because it couldn't possibly be true. Ian Essex says, I'm sure the bloke at Heathrow has a doorbell and people know where he lives. What is wrong with this country? Why couldn't they go wake him up?
That's what I mean.
It's a good point.
The secretary who looks after the boss's business, who could go and get him out of bed.
Personal assistant, please.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But no, but this was a major crisis. This was Heathrow Airport. This wasn't just like a local problem that someone needed to... You know, this was a major kind of decision. This
was a world-affecting event, right? And this guy says, oh, I couldn't do anything about it because my phone was on silent.
I was asleep.
Sorry, I was sleeping. Let's have a look at Peter Mandelson, you know, my Lord Mandelson, Prince of Darkness.
Must we?
Who is now, of course, the ambassador to the United States of America. Everybody thought when that story first surfaced that it wouldn't happen, but there he is. He got questioned by Sky News the other day on his links with Jeffrey Epstein. This is good.
In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
He was in jail at the time for soliciting prostitution from a minor.
And my knowledge of him is something that I regret. I wish I'd never met him in the first place.
Why did you have an association with him? Because he was in jail at the time.
Why did many people meet him? He was a prolific networker, and I wish I'd never met him in the first place.
I've heard him called many things, Jeffrey Epstein.
Prolific, and he nearly said paedophile.
Networker, yeah. I mean, I wish I'd never met him. Well, you could have not met him. You didn't have to meet him.
And he was in jail at the time.
And he was in jail, and you didn't have to go to his house.
It's very interesting. It's a bit like the Diddy case at the moment in America. There's people realising that they're pals.
Yeah, what were you doing at the party? Oh, nothing.
What on earth?
Nothing.
What were you doing in his private jet? What were you?
Yeah, I wasn't in that room. I don't know what happened. I've been told.
They'll answer some questions, but not others. No, I'm not commenting on my personal. What on earth?
But also, Mandelson is such a sort of embarrassment and an arrogant man, where he says, I'm not going to answer any questions. Well, I'm sorry, you're paid by the public, mate. We need you to answer some questions because, you know, frankly, it's your job. Yeah. You know, you don't get to just do what you like. Unbelievable stuff. A couple of other things to talk about. Glasgow Council, apparently, the worst sick council in Britain, has clocked up 10,000 sick days, I think, in the last 8 years. That's not bad going, is it?
It's really not bad
So many people calling in sick. They've already had something like 650 call in sick this year already.
Do you know what's really interesting? Is when you're freelance or when you work in the private sector, do you think back how many sick days you've had compared to these doctors and nurses and council workers and people in the public sector? Who literally have, I don't know, 5, 10... I don't think I've had a sick day, literally, in years. You just get on with it.
You do.
You have to get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for people who, say, have to take some time off because they're having an operation or something like that, that's different. This is literally people just going...
I mean, people feeling a bit ropey, feeling tired, having a mental health day, having a duvet day.
Duvet day and all that. This is good from Gary in Rochester. Phones can be set to go into Do Not Disturb mode between certain times, but you can make it so certain numbers can still get through.
There should have been an override for his emergency.
Yeah.
And he's probably claiming, oh, it just
But he's not saying that. He's saying it just went into standard silent mode. Mine activates, says Gary from Rochester, at 10:30 p.m. Turns off at 6 a.m. in case Mike Graham tries to phone me.
Oh, I love that.
That's nice. I'm sorry, Gary. I feel like I should call you now. Maybe I'll call you in the break. We've got lots more coming up. Emma, thank you very much indeed.